Hi, Mark Reedy here. In this video, I just wanted to go over the Lube Service PM tab for you. And we'll go over creating a Lube Service type, how to edit mistakes that you might have made to the Lube Service type, entering in a new Lube Service, the entry of lower interval Lube Services, preference settings for lower interval Lube Services, for auto entry of those, you can have that turned on or off. And then Lube Services and reminders. I'll also show you the Lube Service reports as well, if I can spell correctly. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the Lube Service type is this drop down here, and we're on the Lube Service tab, as you can see up here at the top. And the Lube Service type is this drop down, and it comes pre-configured from us with 2 or 3 Lube Service types, like a 3,000 mile, a couple of other ones. But in order to create a new Lube Service type, I'm going to create a 5,000 mile Lube Service type. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a name. So the first part is just naming it. It doesn't have anything to do with the interval, but it can be a name that means something to you. So I'm just going to call this 5,000 mile. And then I'm going to hit tab or enter, either one of those. It tells me it's not in the list and asks me if I want to add it. So I'm going to click OK. And now it's asking me to enter the mileage interval. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in the number 5,000 because that's what this one is going to be. Click OK. The next question is for me to enter the hours interval. This would be if this was based on an hours meter reading interval. And I'm just going to click OK or cancel to bypass this one because it is not based on an hours meter. And the other one is the days interval. And I'm going to bypass that as well. You can have 2 different intervals on the same Lube service if you want to. So you could have miles and days. So whatever comes first is how it's going to start showing up in the reminder screen. So I'm going to click OK to that. And now we'll go ahead and enter in the Lube service. So I've done that. Oh, I was going to show you first how to edit mistakes. If I made a mistake in that Lube service, for example, I named it wrong, or I put the wrong interval in, or something like that, you go up here to Forms, and then drop down List Maintenance. And if you put your mouse over it, you can see all the drop down List Maintenance items listed there that you can edit. So I'm going to go to the Lube Service types right here. Choose that. And now if I wanted to make a change to one of these, I'm going to go to the 5,000 mile one that I just created. And I'm going to just put the letters PM after it. Alright, and I'm going to click. Now once I do that, I could go to another one and choose to make changes. I can make multiple changes here in this screen and then click close. The other thing you can do in this screen is make it inactive. So if I click inactivate, what will happen is the Lube service will no longer show up in the drop down, but if it was used in the past on a piece of equipment, it'll still be in there for that piece of equipment, so that you don't end up with a blank space here under the Lube service types. You can delete a Lube service type, but if you do delete it by using the delete button down here, it's going to delete it from everywhere it was used on a piece of equipment. So you're going to end up with equipment, if you had used it, you'll end up with equipment that has no Lube service type, so there's no interval, so they'll never show up on a reminder screen or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and click close. We've changed this and added the letters PM after it. So I'm going to close that. You can see it instantly updates over to the drop-down list. If you click on the drop-down list also, it tells you what the intervals are for the Lube service type for each one in the list there. So now to put the date in, I can just double click this to put the date in. To put today's date in, I double click that, and that puts today's date in. And then for the odometer reading, looks like this piece of equipment has 214785 on it, so I'm going to go 214, I'm going to go 215 200 on there. And it's asking me if I want to update the odometer and hours meter for this piece of equipment. And so if I click yes to that, it'll update it for the equipment itself. The next field is for the hours. If you have an hours meter reading that you want to put in there, you can do that. Here, the accomplished by, from the drop down, you can choose somebody in your personnel file, or it can just, it could be another name. You can just type a name in there, or it could be an outside vendor like, you know, diesel repair shop or whatever it is. And then I can hit tab and it'll accept that. And then the next check boxes are what's been actually completed on check each item. The A, the B, and the C are for a service, a B service, or a C service. Now this would be a list of items that exist outside of TATEMS that that you would check off as showing as completed. So if you completed an A service, you would just check that, and that would be a list of items, PM items that were completed during an A service. And that would be a list of items that exist outside of TATEMS. There's no internal list inside the program for these A, B's, or C's. And then the next field down here is the notes, and you can just type in whatever notes you want to put in there. Should have done that on this one that we're actually on. Okay, so now you can see that I've got the 5,000 mile PM and the 10,000 mile PM. Now, if I wanted to add a 20,000 mile PM and say this was done, you know, farther in the future, we'll say and we'll put this at 215.16. Okay, and go ahead and add that. We'll just choose a name in here, and now it's asking me if I want to enter these lower interval lube services at the same time as this was done. So if entering in this 20,000 mile lube service also triggers a completion of the 5,000 mile and the 10,000 mile, then you can highlight those two, click OK, and it'll enter those in there automatically for you. And it says completed during the 20,000 mile loop service, completed during the 20,000 mile loop service. So, and then you can continue with the 20,000 mile, just checking off what was completed on there. All right, so that's how you automatically enter the lower interval loop services. You can have it more automated so that it doesn't even ask you to choose which ones. If you go up here to Tools and Preferences, and you'll see here where it says always add lower interval loop services. So if you check that, it's going to also stop asking if you want to add lower interval loop services, and it will automatically add them for you without popping up. It'll just enter all the lower interval loop services. Now you can also just choose to stop asking, and it will never ask or add the lower interval loop services. But keep in mind, if you do that, the lower interval ones will still stay on your reminder screen until they are actually completed, until you've actually done those and completed those. Okay, so let's see what else we got here. So we've entered a new loop service, we've entered the lower interval loop service, we've looked at the preferences settings for the lower interval loop service. Now we'll look at the loop services and reminders. And so let me go ahead and show you that. I'm going to click on Forms, and then Reminders pop-up, and we'll get a little bit of an elapsed time message there. See how it says not responding? Just go ahead and let it continue to run its query. In this case, this particular database has hundreds of past due loop services and inspections and so forth, and over 300 pieces of equipment, so it takes a little bit longer to run these queries. So as your database grows, the reminders are going to take longer to pop up for you. So once you have the reminders pop-up screen, we can go over here to the loop service reminders, and that shows us all the loop services that are currently due. And also over here it shows you, the next mileage it's due at. This shows you that it's this one particular one is 105 miles past due. This yearly one, if we scroll off to the right here, we can see here it's 473 days past due. So this database has not really been updated in a little while, so that's why a lot of this stuff is showing up on here. And it shows you how many on the tab, how many currently are due underneath the Lube Service tab. So that is the reminders for Lube Service. You can print out this list also, the list down below. If you just click on the print button, it'll print out that entire list for you. You can also choose to filter by different parts of the program. If you want to choose a specific customer and look at all the reminders for a specific customer, location, department, or area. Once you choose customer, then you would have the choice to choose which customer it is. If it's by location, you could choose which location it is, and so forth. And then you click apply filter, and then it's going to filter that list for you, or all the lists for you actually. So that's the reminders for Lube Service. And then finally we have a couple of reports I'm going to show you real quick. One of them is the current equipment report, and you can see the Lube Service report right here. I click on that. It asks me which year I want to print out the report for. I'm going to go back to, well, I'm just going to stay at 2014. That'll work. I'm going to click OK there. That shows me the upcoming Lube services, when they're next due. Shows me the ones that have been completed, and equipment information and so forth. And then the other report we have would be underneath reports, and then more reports. You go over here to Lube Service, and we have a few of them. The reminders report can be listed here with the filters. So if you have your filters filled in on the filters tab, it'll show you all the current Lube services along with the filter part numbers for those Lube services. This would be Lube service reminders by customer. These are the ones coming due. So if you want to see what's coming due, due in a certain date range. So if you wanted to see what's coming due next month, you could start off in the next month, from that month over the next 30 days of that month. So you could go 3/1/2014 to 3/30/2014 and so forth. So that's how you would narrow down the criteria for that. So that's it for this help video. Hopefully this has been helpful for you, and thanks for watching.